Mode.
Good afternoon, welcome to Magic Software's webinar on the Magic Mobile Device Management Solution. I'm Tom Hutchins, Marketing Manager for Magic Software UK, Ireland and Nordics, and we'll be joined on the line by Andrew Aldis from our MDM partner Soti. Andrew will be giving us a live demo later on. So the agenda for today, I'm going to give a brief overview of Magic Software, our approach to integrating the enterprise and why that's so important for your mobile, and then I'm going to hand over to Andrew to give his demo. At the end, we'll do a Q&A session, and we've had a few issues, I'm afraid, recently with audio, so I'd appreciate if you could write your questions in the chat field. I'll read them out and we'll answer them. If there's any we can't answer on the air, then one of our staff will be in touch with you after the session. So, Magic Software's overview. We were established in 1983. We're 30 years old this year. We had our first IPO in 1991. We're listed on the Magic Stock Exchange, and we're a member of the Asseco Group, which is one of the biggest IT groups in Europe. Like I say, we've been around for 30 years. We're focused on business needs. We deliver them through innovative technology. We operate in over 50 countries with over 2,500 global partners, and we have 15 offices in worldwide, everywhere from the US and Brazil, across Europe, South Africa, India and Japan. Our approach is through a process integration suite, Magic XPI integration platform. Ties together anything from various forms of SAP, SharePoint, Dynamics, the various Force.com ecosystems including Salesforce, Oracle, Lotus Notes and many more. It operates through .NET, Java, and just about connects to anything you can imagine. The concept of process-based integration is that you take, rather than a systems-oriented view, a process view of the actual workflows we're trying to complete. So in the examples that we have here, there's just very typical ones between Salesforce and SAP. The lead comes into the system to marketing, into the Salesforce system. It's moved through qualification, transferred to sales. All of this is within Salesforce. But as sales starts to deal with it, they need to get information from SAP. They need to involve admin and finance to make sure that the account information they have is correct, that the client can actually pay for the solution if they decide to buy it, and to understand any regulatory issues that might occur. We can make that happen very smoothly through the integration system, can then move back into Salesforce through the actual sales, then through SAP, the delivery and the payment. Now all of this can be done seamlessly in one single process-based flow. So Magic XPI is based on metadata technology, which is fantastic because it means you have a visual drag and drop, code-free way of actually doing your integrations. We use pre-built components which are certified by the companies that actually do the systems that we integrate, and that makes it very simple, step-by-step. Wizards make it very quick and easy. Magic XPI is very high performance across different platforms. We've built in availability and robustness. It's scalable. We have increased extended monitoring and management, and so we have the certified connectors for many different systems. The new version we have, the latest version, Magic XPI 4, uses in-memory data grids. It's the same kind of technology that companies like Facebook use for their high availability applications. Essentially, rather than doing a traditional server system, you have a grid of very many different nodes, and these provide much higher availability, fault tolerance, higher redundancy, and more scalable. We have seamless clustering out of the box, improved error recovery, it's more scalable, and it comes with advanced system management facilities. Here's where we start getting into the mobile side, because you have people using mobile, and increasingly that's the way the workforce is going. We believe that by developing process-based integrations, that makes it easier for people to do more stuff on mobile. Because if you think about a use case of maybe a washing machine repairman, to take an example out of thin air, he's gone to a client, they needs to order a piece in to do his repair. Normally that might involve going through many different systems. He might not even be able to check it while he's actually with his client. But if, for instance, you've used have a program which simply will walk through the different databases to check stock levels, can even place an order while he's with the client without having to leave this one application, and even arrange follow-up visit to actually do the installation there and then, possibly even take payment in advance, or make sure that there aren't any special offers the client might benefit from. So this is where you start getting into the mobile side. The process-based integration makes everything that much smoother and simpler. So the value of Magic is that it's simple, the code-free metadata approach, with a business focus, isolating the technology. It's adaptive, very productive, scalable, and proven over 30 years. So integrating with XPI. The point for the business is that we have to remove siloed data that's stuck in systems which you can't get access to. If users can't access the data, they have to take decisions based on incomplete or inaccurate data, and that means you lose your competitive advantage. We believe there's a better way to bridge that gap by taking the view that systems are not an island. Integrating systems means that you get 360-degree customer views, fewer errors, less manual data entry, less duplication, and everything happens smoother and faster, and that delights your customer. Problem is that your systems may well look a bit like this. Everything's working across purposes. How do they all put together? Each system has its own API. How do you integrate between maybe on-premise and cloud systems? How do you deal with your data exchange? And traditionally, that's required a lot of coding. From the customer's side, there's just not so much you can do to help them out without that integration, because everything takes longer. They might lose or get data corrupted during transfers. And from the enterprise side, you want to have your processes as smooth as possible and to integrate all your various stuff. XPI is positioned between all these different systems because we tie them all together and make them effective. Magic XPI is the solution as a metadata-driven platform. It enables easy process integration, as code-free, and allows you to synchronize and integrate data between different applications, and all of this can be done with a high level of automation, a real-time view. Certified by the companies that produce the systems in the first place, and it's mobile ready. And that brings us to the specific solution that we have for mobile device management. So the challenge that we have these days is that enterprise mobility is now fueled by the consumerisation of IT. It doesn't matter if it's BYOD or a corporate-owned mobile device. The days have gone when it was possible to say, it's okay, we know that everyone in the business who's going to be using mobile has device X or device Y. Now there's a lot of fragmentation and a security nightmare because you've got all these different devices. You don't necessarily know who owns them just by looking at it. You don't know who's got access. You don't know, particularly if it's an employee-owned device, where it's going to live, where data can sit, and there's much less control you can have over how it's accessed and what applications they have. Because even outside work, they're going to want to have it as their device, which they then want to run work applications on. It's not a work device that they might cheekily use as a private phone. So you need to be able to control content provisioning. You need to be able to monitor. And MDM solutions now become a commodity. Mobile application management, dealing with your content, is the real differentiator. So the benefits of the Magic MDM solution are that we're cross-platform. We work across Android, iOS, and Windows. In fact, we have the most advanced Android support in the market, and that is going to be a key part of Andrew's demo. We have very innovative functionality, flexible deployments, It's a proven solution and your one-stop shop for enterprise mobility needs. We provide real-time device tracking, alerts and audits. We can provision and control your mobile devices, have the best remote control help desk tool, and we can provide data level, user level, device level security, and we can remote wipe the device as required. So it highlights the functionality that we have includes support for a wide range of platforms, a great deal of asset management control, can easily provision to the devices, manage the content with advanced security. Our service is location-based, allowing to do geofencing. Geofencing is the way that you can control what's allowed on the device based on its physical location. You might not want any corporate data outside of a certain country or even within a certain area. If, for instance, you have someone goes to a very sensitive site, an example I've come across in the past would be a data center, you might well want to stop access to certain applications while they're within that site. You can do that with our system. We also have a great deal of granularity in alerts and reporting, telecom expense management, and remote control of the device. We can control the actual device features, detect jailbreaking of the device, manage applications, and it allows two-way chat and messaging. The Magic MDM system is done via the internet between device agents, a management console, and an MDM server and database. So the MDM is a key part of our mobility solution. It sits alongside Magic XPA, our application platform developing mobile applications. Magic XPI, as I talked about earlier, the process integration suite. The mobile device management allows you to monitor and control devices, and then we have our Magic Mobility services, which we provide for ISVs and enterprises. Why us? We appreciate there's quite a choice out there, but we believe that we have the leading third-party MDM solution with thousands of deployments. We believe that process automation and reduced labor costs helps you reduce the cost of ownership of the solution. And because we have the platform solutions services for device and user management, application development and integration, we think that we are the one-stop shop for all your enterprise mobility needs. And with that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Andrew, who's going to give us our demo. Okay, Andrew.
Excellent, thanks, Tom. Let me just pull this up so I can show my screen. Excellent. So thanks for that, Tom. So I'm just going to put a bit of meat on the bones as to who your MDM solution is. So who is actually backing your MDM solution. And I'm going to give you a demo of the actual product and the key aspects of the product. As Tom mentioned, yes, it's very much around the Android platform, but I'll kind of cover off all aspects of it. So just a bit of a background. We are SOTI. We're a Canadian company. We've been around for 17 years, so not as long as you guys. But in the MDM world, 17 years is a lifetime. We started in the ruggedized space. So your Windows Mobile 6.2, 6.5 CE devices, so all your postal services, your DHL, UPS, whoever it may be, Sky, when they come to your door for a signature with their huge ruggedized devices, they'll all be running Mobi Control. We actually now have just over 85% global market share on Windows Mobile devices, which is pretty much where we started. Obviously, 4 years ago, with the onset of the shiny devices, I like to call them, your Android, your iOS, we moved into the enterprise space. One of the key things we did was actually set up a partnership with Samsung, where we essentially said to Samsung, if we build your API stack, you put our IP in your hardware, we can create this Android Plus technology. They agreed, we did that, we initiated their SAFE program, so we were behind their SAFE program, and it just means that for a customer on our Android Plus technology, it's pretty much a blank canvas. Whatever a customer thinks they need, we can provide, and it's our real unique selling point for device management, and it's our full advanced management as well. We say Samsung because that's where the initial partnership started. Obviously, we have moved that to people like HTC, LG, Lenovo, ZTE, Motorola, and constantly we are integrating more and more devices and manufacturers into the Android Plus technology. For you guys, when you talk to customers, if you have a customer who has a specific Android device in mind that they want to use, if we can get a hold of one of those devices, we can then get that certified for Android Plus as well. So by no means is it exclusive to the device I've just said. It can always be expanded, which is a real key point. So we now have over 10,000 enterprise deployments globally with all various different companies, and we've also got over 10 years of R&D. What this all gives us is longevity, gives us pedigree, and it means that we know what we're doing. We can kind of predict the trends. Our developers work all the time continuously looking at what's coming up, what's needed, how we move forward, and it just keeps us ahead of the game all the time. As I mentioned, obviously we have some strong partnerships, Magic Software being a very, very key and exciting new partnership for us. We hope to do some great things going forward. We're very excited about the possibilities and growing this moving forward over the coming months, years. In the hardware space, obviously we have key strategic partners in people like Motorola, Honeywell, Intermec in the ruggedized space. And in the enterprise space, we're obviously preferred partner with Apple, a gold certified partner with Microsoft, and then we have our Android partners in people like Samsung, HTC, and the likes. As I said, Samsung is probably one of our strongest propositions because of what we've done with them, and this just covers off what I've kind of said. One of the new things Samsung are doing, which we've been strongly behind as well, is something called Samsung Knox technology. This is Samsung's containerization of a device. So being able to split the device between your work and your personal. And we've worked very closely with Samsung to bring this to fruition. It is not commercially available as of today, but will be very, very imminently. And we expect to see some strong propositions with this going forward. As a quick snapshot, and don't worry too much about the customers on this slide, more I want to show that pretty much we work in every vertical going. So whether a customer's in healthcare, government, logistics, IT, education, whatever it may be, we've got a customer in that vertical. What this means for you is you get the full backing from SOTI. So if you need referrals, case studies, whatever it may be, we can provide all this. Always a key thing with potential customers. There are obviously some quite large customers in this. I think our largest singular customer at the moment has about 580,000 devices, but we go all the way down to customers who just have 10 devices. Personally, I don't care if a customer's got 10 devices or 1 million devices. Every customer's got a unique challenge. We will work in exactly the same way with every customer to find a solution for their challenge. Mobi Control as a product is pretty much unique in the fact that it is end-user driven. We do about 2 updates a year. One update is usually because the operators or the manufacturers do an operating system upgrade. So iOS 7 is a good example where we've done an update for. But the other update is because throughout the year, customers will constantly give us feature requests. We will look at all these feature requests. If they're financially viable, we will build them into the system, do an update, and send it out free of charge. A good example of this is we had a large customer who was moving all their devices from BlackBerry to Android. One of their key requirements was to have antivirus. We went away, we partnered with WebRoot, and now we built that into the system and everyone gets that free of charge. So really, really key thing. And as I said, our real unique selling point is our Android technology. We do Android better than anyone else. No one comes close to us on this. And its functionality such as advanced remote control, things like location services, kiosk mode, the antivirus, web filtering. I will show you all these in a live demo, but these are real key things to promote. So, without further ado, the actual console. So this is the Moby Control console. This is what an IT manager or whoever's running the system will be faced with on a daily basis. Some key things to note. Firstly, it's a web portal. We've gone web portal route for two reasons. One, ease of use. We find the web portal much more user-friendly. You don't have to have a master's in IT to be able to manage this system. In fact, we pretty much recommend an hour's training session with one of our tech guys, and someone will be proficient in running this system. So it's very, very easy to use. The other reason it's web portal is for easy access. Anyone now can log into the system wherever they are in the world as long as they've got an internet connection. So it just gives that benefit of being able to access the console 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. So as I go around the system very quickly, some things to note. At the top here we have our different tabs, and these are our operating systems. So you've got your Windows Mobile, we've got Windows Desktop and Laptop, and that's anything from Windows 98 all the way up to Windows 2008 Pro. iOS, generic Android, and then your Android Plus. And I will come on to the differences as I go through. We have also just announced that we will be releasing version 11 at the end of this month, or 1st November. We announced that 2 days ago at the Gartner event in Orlando. And version 11 will incorporate Windows Phone 8 as well. So there'll be a new tab at the top for Windows Phone 8, as well as some other functionality as well, which I will happily share with you afterwards. So as your devices enroll to the system, they just populate under their correct tab. So as you can see here under Android Plus, I've got all my devices, most of them Samsung, but there are, as I said before, some other devices that we will connect under Android Plus. If I want to see all devices connected, I just click my server tab, and that will show everything I have currently on my estate. When they populate in the middle, they will bring up some key information about the device, so things like battery status, memory, storage, phone number, IP address, whatever it may be. If an IT manager wants to see something specifically at a quick glance, all they've got to do is go to columns and tick a box. They tick a box, and it will just be added. So there we go, full name suddenly added, last connect, whatever they need. Also, on the right-hand side, we can actually pull up any information we want about a device. So whether it's the OS version, whether it's the Wi-Fi signal strength, the cellular network strength, whether the device is enabled for roaming, absolutely anything about the device we can pull up right here on the right-hand side, which is obviously pretty key. On the left-hand side, we have our folder policy folders. These are absolutely paramount to Moby Control. Everything we do, we work on a folder level. The reason for this, and it becomes self-explanatory in a bit, is just that it makes the system so much easier to manage. The last thing an IT manager wants to do is have 5,000 devices and have to manually set policies for every single device. So what we do is do it on these folders. So we have our parent folder, and then we have our child folders. You can have as many folders as you want in an estate. So you might have a board of directors, an IT team, a sales team, a marketing team, whatever it may be, each of which will have different security level restrictions. All we do is create our security level restrictions on a folder level, and then whatever device is in whatever folder, it will automatically take on the policies of that folder. So it might take a little bit of time to set up the folders in the first place, but once they're set up, it should pretty much self-manage itself, which is absolutely key. Possibly the greatest functionality of Moby Control is what we call remote control. So this is our ability to remotely log on to a device anywhere in the world as long as it's got network connection in real time. This is an absolute lifesaver to most companies. Gone are the days where they'd have mobile devices out in the field, an end user presses something, doesn't know what they pressed, they crash the device or something's gone wrong. They have to ring up the IT support. IT support can't help them over the phone, so they have to send the device back to the office. 48, 72 hours later, they will get it back. This just wastes time in the field. It spoils efficiency, and eventually it will actually stop revenue for the company. We had a great quote just a few days ago from the CEO of DPD, the parcel distribution company, who actually has said that using remote control has actually increased their support functionality by 80%, which has actually increased their efficiency and their revenue stream. Someone like DHL, who uses mobile control and uses remote control functionality absolutely critically, their mobiles out in the field are critical to their business. If their devices are offline for any more than 12 hours, they start losing massive amounts of money because the people in the field cannot do the job to pick up parcels. So remote control is an absolute lifesaver to some of these companies. So within remote control, as I said, we can take full control of the device. We are unique in the fact that we don't just map the software, we actually map the hardware as well. So if I press the hardware keys, they come up in the exact same way. Whatever I press on the device here happens on the device, wherever it is in the world, and vice versa, whatever I press on the device itself happens on my screen. So it's fully two-way, fully intuitive. As I said, we also map the hardware buttons, so even things like I can do the volume buttons, and all sorts of things like that. We also have some other functionality within remote control. Simple things like we can take a video at any time. So we can actually record a video of whatever is going on the screen at any one point. Very, very useful functionality. You've got a less tech-savvy person out in the field. They don't know what they've done. They can't explain it over the phone or an email. An IT manager can just say, just record a video of what you did, or they can record a video while they do it. They can have a look, diagnose the problem, and then sort it. Vice versa, maybe for training purposes, a company can record a video of some steps that need to be taken to install an application or change some settings. They can do it on here, send it out to the field, and everyone can copy. We can also take a screenshot at any time of the device and what's happening. And another critical thing is we can actually change down the color scale. So if someone's in GPRS reception and there's lag on the system because of the network connection, we can just move it down to 4 grayscale, and this will reduce the lag as much as possible. The other important thing to note here is obviously some of our competitors have been given our APIs. So some of them will be able to do remote control on an Android device. The key things to note are they can only map the software, they don't map the hardware. But also this point is quite critical. Someone like AirWatch, which is probably our biggest competitor, when they do a remote control session, they can only do it in high color. This is actually a massive drain on the data of the device. So if someone's out in the field on 3G and they're doing a remote control session, a 15-minute session will take about 40 megabytes worth of data. With us, we can do 2 things. We've developed some exclusive technology called Flipfire, which will actually truncate the data down 10 times. So even in high color, where AirWatch uses 40 megabytes, we'll use about 4 megabytes. If we move it down to grayscale, we can actually reduce that even more to about 500K. So there's some huge savings for customers. I will just move this back to high color. The last thing, 2 things I want to show you on remote control. The first thing is the File Explorer tool. So at any point, we can dive right into the file directory of the device. So again, if an IT manager needs to update an INI or a log file or whatever it may be, they can go onto the device, pull the file off the device back to the server, edit it, do what they need to do with it, and then put it straight back on the device, completely remotely with no end-user interaction needed whatsoever. We can also run file sync rules with this. So again, maybe a company, it's critical for them that We have engineers in the field who have to take photos for their job. They need this information back at the end of the day, and instead of having to rely on the end user uploading it each day, we can run a file sync rule to say, at the end of the day, as long as the device is on Wi-Fi or whatever conditions we want, pull this file back from the device to the server. Just makes everyone happy, everyone gets their job done, and the information is secure. On the right-hand side is the application manager tool. Quite often, with end users, they've got these shiny devices. They can do a lot with these shiny devices. Most of them will press buttons without knowing what they're pressing, and they may kill applications or crash applications. If an application crashes in the background, they probably won't notice, apart from the fact their phone starts running really slow. What an IT manager can do is go straight onto the system, right-click an application, and kill that application remotely. This will kill the application in the background and just free the device back up to run in normal speed again. One of the important things to note with Mobi control and remote control is, for security purposes, some people get a bit conscious about the fact that, hold on, we can just remote control onto anyone's device and see anything we want. Yes, they can, but we can also do it that we send a dialog box to the end user's device first. So when a remote control session is initiated, a dialog box pops up on the end user's phone saying, you're about to be remote controlled, do you agree, yes or no? It's then up to the end user to say yes or no. So there is some privacy protection as well. We aren't just opening their phone up to whoever wants to log into it. And that's an important thing to note for most customers. Excellent. So other core functionality with the system is being able to do things like uninstall and deploy applications. So I'm just going to shrink this down a little so I can actually get this all nicely spaced for you. You can see this all working. So many companies today will have smartphones, and one of their biggest concerns is, well, we don't want our users being able to download anything they want. We don't want them using Facebook, Twitter while they're at work. We want them to use these for line of business devices. That's what they're made for. What we can do is help with that process. And we try and make it as simple as possible. So within our configuration, one of the things we can do, if I go to my configuration, I right-click, I go to device configuration, and you'll see a whole lot of options. So for Find My Application Run Control, we just tick a box, and then we tick what we don't want to be used on the phone. So the system settings, we can get rid of things like the browser, the Google Play Store, YouTube, but we can also blacklist any app we want. And all we do is go to New, give it a topic, whatever it may be, click Add, and the company just needs to name the applications. What you'll see is that we've already pre-populated all the coding or the scripting, so they don't have to worry about that. They've just got to know what the application is called. And they just literally add them and populate a list here. Once press OK, that will filter into the left-hand column. They then choose it, move it across, and that will now blacklist all of those applications. And any device within this folder will automatically take on this policy. And as you can see here, if I move this device now into my corporate liable folder, instantly over the air, what will happen is you will suddenly see applications start to disappear off the device. No end user interaction needed whatsoever, it just happens. A key thing to note here is we're not destroying the application. So we're not actually uninstalling the application, we're just blocking the path to that application. So in a BYOD sense, if someone had their personal device and they had Facebook and Twitter, obviously a company doesn't want to actually destroy their application or their personal data, but they don't want them to use it while they're in work. So what we do is just block the path. It's also clever in the fact that it knows that if someone thinks they're a bit clever and thinks they'll go to a website and download the APK and try to manually sideload that onto the phone, as soon as they try to do that, instantly a message will pop up on the device saying this APK is not allowed on this device. So there is no way to get this APK on the device and no way to get Facebook, Twitter, or whatever other applications a company doesn't want on the device. What we can also do is push out applications. Again, lots of companies will have, particularly working with yourselves, will have a lot of software applications that they use out in the field. One of the challenges for them is how do they remotely push out applications without having to bring the devices back into work. Well, with our software, we actually include a piece of software called Package Studio. And within Package Studio, we can take any APKs, CAB files, EXE files, whatever they may be, and truncate them into one single package. So on deployment, all that needs to be done is a company needs to point where they want this package to be sent, to which folders they want it to be sent to. They can also write scripts within this package, very simply to say things like automatically install, automatically open, as I have done here, as you can see on the right. They can do things to say only install the device on Wi-Fi, only install after a certain time at night. Whatever they want, it can pretty much be customizable to however they want to install this package. But again, the beauty of it is there is no end user interaction whatsoever, and that's really key. Another really important functionality we have is something called kiosk mode. So kiosk mode is our real granular lockdown of a device. So again, someone like DHL, UPS on their ruggedized devices, they will use a kiosk mode because the only thing they want their end users to do is to capture a signature. They don't want them to use the devices for anything else. So kiosk mode is a way of being able to lock down a device and replace the desktop on the device so that it will only allow access to applications granted by the company. It is being used in more and more varied ways. We have American Airlines as one of our customers now, and they put kiosk mode on their tablets because they're now giving their tablets to their first class customers when they board a plane, and they only want them to use certain things. It's also a good way to get their branding out, even on a Samsung device or an HTC device. They can have their branding all over the device. So in this scenario, I've done one for education because education is becoming a much bigger thing for things like kiosk mode, particularly to protect primary learners. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter who is amazing at managing to take my tablet off me when I get home, go to YouTube, search Peppa Pig, and watch Peppa Pig. I don't want her to go to anything else. She's obviously quite capable of just being able to use the device. And for primary learners, we're doing kiosk mode so that schools can actually control what they're going on to and what they're doing, just to keep them safe. And it gives parents peace of mind as well. So with this kiosk mode example, this image can be changed to whatever we want. The branding can be changed to whatever we want. You can have one app, you can have 15 apps, completely up to you or up to the customer. It can all be laid out exactly as a customer wants. So if they want a different layout than the one shown here, absolutely fine. It is essentially just an HTML template. And we can give you an HTML template so that you can work on it. We can give the customer the HTML template, or we can do it for them, completely up to the customer. So if I, on this, go into my maps, I can search my maps. I then press the home screen. It takes me straight back to this kiosk mode. This kiosk mode is loaded directly over the BIOS of the device. So as soon as the device is booted up, it will load this kiosk mode. The end user will never see the Samsung UI. It will only come through on this kiosk mode. It's also really powerful as an asset management tool, because what companies can do is they can create a kiosk mode with simple things like their company logo, and then underneath they might have a bit of writing to say something like, this phone's been lost or stolen, please call this number. We can make it that that number on the device is the only number that can be called from the device. In a best case scenario, they get a phone call and they retrieve their device. In a worst case scenario, the device is secure. No one can get into the kiosk mode, so all the corporate data is secure. And in the meantime, while they're waiting, they can just go to the device itself, right-click, and run an action like wipe the device or block exchange access or whatever they need to do. So they've got that element of control over their corporate data, which is absolutely critical to most companies. So I move this back into my Staging folder. This will return the device back to out of box, really simply. So that's why we do all our policies on a folder level, just because once they're set up, we just drag and drop devices from one folder to another, and it makes things really simple. Within device configuration, as I said, we do have lots of functionality. So with Android Plus, as I'm in here, we can do things like antivirus protection, and this is antivirus and anti-malware. We are still the only MDM company who can silently remove malware from a device, and we just continually sweep the estate. We've got our file encryption, which we use at AES-256. We encrypt at 2 levels, server level and device level, both at AES-256. We have our application run control. We've also got things like our feature control. So again, quite important, particularly I know in UK, for example, NHS customers, things like that, they're quite sensitive about using cameras within hospitals or care homes, using cameras within care homes. So it might be important for them that they actually restrict the use of the camera. All you have to do is tick a box. It's as simple as ticking a box. No scripting, no coding. We just tick whatever we need to get rid of. With applications, we can get rid of things like the voice dialer. We can get rid of the ability to install from unknown sources, whatever it may be. Even with roaming, we can get rid of the ability to use cellular data while roaming. So there's masses of control we can do at an individual feature level. We also, as I mentioned, have phone call policy. One of the biggest challenges customers have, or companies have, is when they give corporate liable phones to an employee with a corporate plan, is trying to control their users for being responsible and not just dialing numbers randomly, particularly premium rate numbers. One of the biggest issues we always get from customers is that their end users will dial directory inquiries, so 118 numbers, which cost an absolute fortune. The networks will not bar these numbers because they make a lot of money from them. So what we can do is actually set up a phone call policy rule. Again, call it what we want. We can deny or allow, so we can whitelist or blacklist, incoming, outgoing, or both, and we just add whatever we want. What we can also do is wildcards. So if I do 118 star, that will now block every single 118 number from being dialed or being received on this device. So quite a key thing there. What we could do is be really mean and do a 0 star, which will block any number in the UK being dialed apart from 999, and then we could whitelist one single number, which might be a head office number. So again, great flexibility, great functionality within that. We also have web filtering. Again, this is done for our partner WebRoot, but we can web filter by topic, so we can block by topic. We can also whitelist, so we can actually whitelist a URL, and we can do a forwarding page as well. So if a company knows they only have one URL they want to be seen on a device, they put that in the whitelist, and then they can do a forward page. So if the device goes to any other URL, it automatically forwards them to the correct one. And then obviously we can do things like email configuration, APN, Wi-Fi, VPN. Excellent. So some of the other functionality on the right-hand side, what we can do is we've got our logs, which will just tell us everything that's happening about our device. Mobi Control will actually audit everything that happens on the device on the day it's enrolled. So again, for audit purposes for a company, it might be really useful so that they can show exactly what's been happening, what the management console has been doing, what the people who are accessing the management console have been doing with the devices. So it will show things like when remote control sessions were initiated, how long they were initiated for. So there's a real granular control of what's actually been happening, what's been done. We also have installed applications, so we can detect any third-party applications installed on a device. And again, If it's not liked, we can click and remove the program, or we can just wipe the program data. So again, it might be important that we're not wiping the whole program or uninstalling the whole program. We just want to get rid of the corporate data. So if there's an enterprise application, the employee leaves or device is misplaced, whatever it may be, we just want to wipe that data as opposed to wiping the whole device. Quite a key thing. The reason why I can't remove the program Moby Control here is because Moby Control is made uninstallable. And we can also do that as well. We've also got things like rules assigned, which will show us exactly what rules are assigned to a device. So I've got a couple there, like locate and rooted. But probably the most important one is actually our location services. So we can locate a device at 3 levels. We can do it via GPS. There we go. So we do it GPS. We can do it by access point, or we can do it by network triangulation. Obviously, GPS is by far the most accurate. A lot of people will say, oh, but doesn't that ruin the battery because GPS got to be on all the time? No, because what we do is every time we ping the device for a GPS location, we just access the GPS module in the device. So we turn it on for that split second. Once we get the longitude and latitude settings, we actually automatically turn the module off again. So it has negligible effect on battery. When we locate a device, we can set it up to locate ping the device every 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, whatever a company wants. And all it'll do is put a nice little trail on the device, or on the screen here, showing exactly where the device is going or has been. We can also speed stamp. So every time it pings the device, it can get a speed of the device and find out how fast that device is going at any one time. What we can also do with that speed is something called speed control. I know there's new legislation coming in soon about corporate manslaughter with employees using their mobiles while driving. What we can do is actually, we can set up a kiosk mode which may have access only to things like satellite navigation or maps or whatever it may be. It removes the voice dial, it removes messaging. As soon as the device hits a certain speed, that kiosk mode automatically kicks in on the device. So it just gives, again, that level of control for a company to safeguard them, to know that their employees are not doing what they shouldn't be doing. One of the critical things, though, and probably used more and more now, is geofencing. So as I zoom in here, you can see exactly where I live. I can create a geofence around anything now. This can be as granular or as big as I want it to be. So if I just put a geofence around here, for example, that is me putting a geofence around my house. Match it up. Excellent. Call it whatever I want. That's my geofence created. With a geofence, I can run all sorts of policies based on the geofence. So it can be simple policies such as, if a device enters this geofence, alert the system. So an alert is sent to the system to show the device entered this geofence. Or when a device leaves, alert the system. So an alert is sent when a device leaves this geofence. It can be slightly bigger things like, when a device enters this geofence, automatically publish Wi-Fi settings. So there's no need for an IT manager anymore to give out username and passwords. It's all automated. Any device that they feel needs to be on the system, they can automatically publish Wi-Fi settings to it. So they can control exactly what devices are on their estate at any one time, which again is a godsend to an IT manager. It can be even more granular things. So it could be that when a device enters a geofence, automatically move the device from this folder to this folder. So that when they come into the office, automatically remove Facebook, Twitter, what else the company wants to remove. When they leave the geofence, automatically reinstall those applications or unblock the path to those applications. You can have as many geofences as you want on a map. So again, if a company's got a head office and then lots of depots around the country, they can have a geofence around every single depot, all with different policies, maybe all with different Wi-Fi access points that need to be published to the device. You can have a geofence within a geofence. So a lot of companies at the moment are doing geofences because they know their devices should never ever leave the UK. So they'll put a geofence around the whole of the UK and run a simple rule to say, if this device leaves this geofence, wipe the device and put it in kiosk mode because it must be lost or stolen. But then also within that geofence, they want to put a geofence around their office with slightly different rules. So that is also possible. Geofences are very, very powerful and can mean that the whole system can pretty much be automated, which is a powerful tool because it just leaves even less work for the IT director or IT manager to do themselves, which is pretty critical. Excellent. So that's pretty much the main console. Some other things with the console. We have a dashboard at the top. I'm just going to spread this out a bit so I can see the dashboard a bit better. There we go. So this is our dashboard. This is an easy view for whoever is looking after the system. It gives them some key information about the devices, but probably the most key thing is the bit in the middle, because this will tell an IT manager, whoever it is, exactly what is on their estate at any time, one time, and by what operating system. One of the biggest headaches, particularly in the BYOD sense, is when users bring their devices to work, they ask an IT manager for their Exchange email server settings, they ask for the Wi-Fi settings, that gets passed on to a colleague, gets passed on to another colleague, gets passed on to a friend, whoever it is. Suddenly, before the IT manager knows it, they've got 5,000 devices hitting their network. They have no way of controlling what these networks are doing, what's happening, and they can't understand why their bandwidth is shrinking so much. This just gives absolute control to the IT manager. Firstly, by automatically publishing Wi-Fi settings and Exchange server settings, they know exactly who should be on the system. And if they haven't been published those settings, well, they don't get access to the system. Also, what we can do, because one of the bigger problems in Android or iOS world is things like jailbroken and rooted devices. What Mobi Control will do will automatically detect a rooted or jailbroken device that comes onto the system. As soon as it detects a rooted or jailbroken device, it will automatically quarantine that device. And by quarantine it, we mean it will block it Exchange server access and block it Wi-Fi access. This just adds another level of safety on the network. Because the last thing anyone wants is a rooted Android device come on the system and spread a virus all around the network. So this just gives it that extra control. It's then up to an IT manager to look at the rooted device, see whose it is, and decide, yeah, that's fine, let it through, or no, kick it off the system. So they have that ultimate control, which is powerful and important. You'll also notice along the bottom we have all sorts of tabs. So we have our Rules tab, and our Rules tab is where we can do all sorts of actions. Probably the most important one is adding a device. So here we just go to Create Add Device Rule. We call it whatever we want. Click Next. And we decide here what folder we want the device to go into as soon as it's enrolled to the system. So this is really useful. If IT manager, you've got several departments, they've set up their folder policies with all the policies they want. They can then assign the enrollment code to each department depending on what folder they want them to go into. As soon as the device hits the system enrolled, it will automatically pull down all the policies and packages that are associated with the folder it's in. So all we do is click what folder we want, we click Next. We can also here fully integrate with AD through Ldap connections and all sorts. So again, if a company's got Active Directory, we can actually integrate with AD credentials and pull down Exchange server settings, Wi-Fi settings, VPN settings, all via their AD server, just making things even simpler. We can also enable customers to be able to do terms and conditions. Again, this is just an HTML template, so they can write whatever they want, put pictures on, however they want to make it look. And when a device is enrolled, the first thing that will happen is it will pop up with a terms and conditions, which the end user must accept. If they don't accept, obviously the device won't be enrolled, and it will flag over the system that this device has not been enrolled due to not accepting terms and conditions. You then click Finish, and the server will throw out an 8-digit code. As simple as that. On the device itself, all the end user does is they must get the agent on the device itself, which is right here. The agent can either be downloaded from one of the app stores, or we can sideload the agent via an APK or an INI file. We can actually bypass this whole enrollment code by actually producing an INI file, which has already got the enrollment code pre-populated. So if companies already have deployments out in the field and they want to do it the simplest way possible without any end-user interaction, that's the easiest way. But essentially, once they download this agent, they punch in that code, the device will enroll and will download all its required policies. To enroll a device from this stage takes about 15-20 seconds. So very, very simple. One of the real nice things about Mobi Control as well is you don't need to make a new code for every single device. It's a code per operating system or a code per folder. So if you've got an estate with 5,000 devices, 2,500 of iOS, 2,500 of Android, you could get away with just doing 2 codes, one for the Android devices and one for the iOS devices. But that's completely customizable and up to the IT manager how best they want to do it. Within our roles, obviously we've got our package deployment roles. Some other useful things, we've got application catalog. The application catalog is something that sits within the agent. So on the actual agent itself, we have some functionality. Within the application catalog, we've got things like a Google Play or an in-house catalog. Some companies might want to do it that they don't want their users using the whole of the Google Play Store, but they don't mind them having some apps from the Google Play Store. Maybe it's BBC News, maybe it's LinkedIn, Evernote, whatever it is. And they don't want to push out the APKs for each of these applications, so they'll just populate their own Google Play Store. Just a really, really simple way of doing it. Similar to the in-house application store. It might be they have a load of enterprise applications, and instead of pushing them all out to the device, they just want to populate them in their own application catalog. And the end user can just go on and install them as they want. We also have a content library within the agent. And what the content library is essentially, it's our document locker. So the content library allows a company to take sensitive documents, maybe their boardroom minutes, maybe their sales forecasts, whatever they may be. You can put them into a folder or a cert drive on the server, and then we can point them to whatever folders we want or whatever devices we want. The beauty of the content library is we can actually run policies on the documents. So we can say things like, this document can be forwarded, it can be cut, it can be pasted, it will automatically delete after a day, whatever it may be, but it's completely controlled within this locker. It also means that if an end user misplaces their device for a few hours, leaves it at a customer site, whatever it may be, instead of having to wipe that device or kiosk mode it, an IT person can just jump on, delete the content library policy to that device, and all those documents will be destroyed along with it. Then, when they get their device back, just reapply that policy, and all those documents will be back on the device again, really simply. So a really good way of controlling sensitive corporate data. We also have a whole lot of alerts that we can do. So we can actually alert on pretty much anything that happens on a device, whether it's a device event, such as insufficient free device and space on device. We can alert on that, and it will alert in 2 ways. It will alert on the actual console, or we can send an email notification to someone. So it might be important that memory is critical on a device, and companies will want an email alert as soon as a device gets below 20%. So we can do things like custom data. So again, it can be very simply, again, maybe battery status is an issue. All we do is select battery status, click the value, so it could be less than 20%, and that's done. That will now alert on the server, and we can send an email notification. As you also saw, we could also alert on geofence events. So like I said earlier, if a device leaves a geofence, it can be alerted. If a device enters a geofence, there can be an alert sent. Alerts can also be sent to the end user device as well. So again, it might be that someone's entering an area and a geofence alert will be sent to the device saying, welcome to London, or whatever it may be, or you're entering London, or whatever they want, it can be done. One of our newer alerts is our Telecom expense management tool. This was brought in because we had so many customers complaining to us about bill data shock. So we created this Telecom expense management rule. What it does is pretty much exactly says on tin. We are trying to avoid that bill data shock for customers. So essentially what can be done is the company can put in their mobiles, choose what mobiles they want to do. They can actually customize their own plan. They go add a new plan, and they can make it a corporate group plan or an individual plan. They can set how many minutes or how much data is allowed per user. They can set when the bill cycle starts and how often the bill cycle is. Once all that's set up, we can then run all sorts of rules. So on a soft threshold, it is very simply, the end user might have a gig worth of data allowance. At 750 megabytes, a message is sent to the end user device and an email notification to the FD or whoever it may be saying this device is getting close to its limit. We then may set up another rule called a hard threshold, whereby if the device hits a gig, which is its limit, we can move that device from one folder to another. And we might have another folder set up with things like remove data, only allow Wi-Fi access, whatever it may be. We can distinguish between Wi-Fi and cellular data usage, so that's not a problem. And one of the big advantages of Mobi Control in this instance is the networks run about 15 to 24 hours behind what's actually happening on their devices. What this means is an end user could hit their gig limit. The network won't know this for about 15 to 24 hours. Within that time, they could rack up a huge data bill because they could be roaming, they could be streaming Sky Sports, BBC iPlayer, YouTube, whatever it may be. And then they'll land back wherever they are, get back to the office, in a month's time find they get a huge data bill from the network. Because Mobi Control pings the device live all the time, we are up to the minute, up to date with what's going on the device. The moment it hits that gig limit, we will cut it off. So it should really negate the fact of bill data shock and things like that, which is very, very important. We also, within Mobi Control, include SQL 2008 Express Edition. So this comes bundled with Mobi Control for all our back-end reporting. We actually use a program called Crystal Reports for all our reporting, and we will happily give the schema for this to any company so that they can customize and create their own report. Or vice versa, a company says to us, we really need a report on this, we can build it for them. Absolutely no problem at all. We have generically populated a whole load of reports based on what customers have asked us for in the past. And very simply, whatever you click on, whatever data range, this will be populated as a PDF document, which can then be exported as an Excel, Word, whatever they need to do. If a company already has a SQL database, we can happily install Mobi Control within their SQL database itself, which will just allow them to do all sorts of things as well, which is great. Excellent. The last thing I really want to show you on this side of things is two things. One, we also have a self-service portal. So actually, end users can now have control to their own device in a very simple self-service portal. All it will do is allow them to do things like locate their device, wipe their device, and send it a message. Really good again for the BYOD scenario, because it means that users can just jump on and control their own things. More importantly, we also have the security tab at the bottom. What we can do here is our manage user section. So again, a company might have a whole support team, IT team, whatever it may be. They may have lots of different users who want to access the system, but they're worried about how much control they give to each user. What we can do here is very simply set up a username and password. So for myself, for example, I can just set up a username and password, and I can give access to whatever I want to give access to on the system and how much control I want this person to have. I can also give them access to whatever folders and devices I want to give them access to. So it might be, in this case, I only want this person to be able to view the sales folder. And within the sales folder, I only want them to be able to manage the group or manage the devices. I don't want them to be able to do remote control. I don't want them to be able to do GPS services, whatever it may be. So when this person now logs in, all they will see is this folder with their devices, and that is it. Really, really important, powerful tool for a lot of companies. Excellent. So I have pretty much shown you, as I would in any demo with any customer, our Android Plus functionality. As I said right at the beginning, the reason why we show this is because this is our USP and this is our blank canvas. Even if I have customers who say to me, oh, I only want iOS, I know I only want iOS, I will still show them Android Plus. Because the way the MDM has worked has changed quite dramatically in the last 6 months. It used to be very much a case of companies would buy hardware and then try to marry up an MDM to their hardware. Now companies are going down the route of buying MDM first and then marrying the hardware to fit their security requirements. So it's important for us to try and give them the best they can get and also the unique services that we do. Having said that though, if someone's absolutely desperate for iOS, of course we'll support it. And iOS actually has quite a lot of control. With iOS 7 now, we can do even more things. So with iOS, we can obviously do all the standard stuff like your Wi-Fi, APN, VPN, email, whatever it may be. We can also do application run control exactly the same we can with Android Plus. We can do feature controls in the same way we can with Android Plus. Not as many features, but we can still do a wide range of features. So if you look at feature set on Apple, there's obviously things like disable use of camera, FaceTime. We can get rid of being able to back up to the iCloud, get rid of data roaming, voice roaming. So a lot of really useful features. We can also connect to Ldap on iOS. The key things we can't do on iOS, the really key thing, you cannot remote control on an iOS device. Apple do not allow it. The way Apple work with MDM is they release their generic APIs to the MDM world. The good thing about this means that everyone's in the same boat. No one can do any more, no one can do any less than anyone else. I have heard some of my competitors say that they can remote control an Apple device. Whenever I hear that, I always ask the customer, did they show you? The customer always says no, that's because they can't. No one can do it. What we can do is something called remote view on an Apple device. So we have built an SDK which a company can build into their enterprise application, which will allow them to remote view into that application. When we say remote view, it means that the IT person on their screen will be able to see the Apple device and be able to see that application. They won't be able to control it. It will only be able to be controlled from the end user point, and they will only be able to see that application. As soon as the end user leaves that application, the remote view session will automatically stop. So that is a huge, huge difference between Apple and Android. Everything else is very, very similar. The other difference, though, is Apple believes that end user is king. So you're not allowed to do anything without any end user interaction. So though we can remove applications in exactly the same way as Android Plus, we can install applications in the same way. The big difference is with Apple, when we uninstall something, it will pop up on their screen saying, the management console is trying to remove this application. Do you agree, yes or no? And the end user has to say yes or no. If they say no, obviously the server will alert all over the place saying this user has not removed this application. we can do some clever workarounds with this. So we can do something called a persistent uninstallation or installation. And all that does is it will literally ping up a message on the user's device every 10 seconds saying you need to uninstall this application, and we'll keep pinging up until they hit yes. So basically we annoy them so much that eventually they'll hit yes, which is always good. We can also do web clips with iOS, which is essentially just web filtering. It's just putting shortcuts on the desktop with the websites that they're allowed to go to, and we'd remove the Apple browser at the same time, so they can only go to the websites they're allowed to. As you can see, we can also blacklist any app and system apps. We can get rid of the App Store, iTunes Music Store, YouTube, Internet Browser, quite a lot of applications we can remove. So even though Apple is slightly restricted, by no means is it a weak MDM solution. With Apple, you can still do a heck of a lot. Windows Phone 8, on the other hand, is a completely different beast. So Windows Phone 8 is very restrictive. Microsoft has kind of split their company into three. You've got the desktop and laptop, you've got the Windows Mobile, and now they seem to have brought on Windows Phone. They seem to be in very infant steps. They're going down the Apple route of telling MDM providers what they can do, but they're about 3 years behind Apple. So from 1st November, when we have Windows Phone 8 integration, you will only be able to do things like wipe a device, email configuration, and a few extra policies, but very, very basic. You won't be able to track a device, you won't be able to locate a device, you won't be able to remote control. So yeah, very restricted. That will grow as the months go on, and it will get bigger and bigger. But that's just the way it is. The good thing to note is that we're all in the same boat again. There is no MDM company that will be able to do more or less on Windows Phone 8. So if a customer says to you, oh, I'm going to go somewhere else, it makes no difference. They can't get it anywhere else. Everyone's exactly the same. With Windows Mobile, we can do exactly the same as what we can do on Android Plus. So everything I've demoed to you on Android Plus, we can do on Windows Mobile. On Windows Desktop and Laptop, we can do all sorts of things like remote desktop. So we can do the remote control of the desktop. We can do kiosk mode on a desktop, so we can lock down the desktop. We can do email configuration. We can push out applications. So there's actually quite a lot of functionality within the desktop as well, which is quite powerful. That, though, and I believe I've been about an hour, so I apologize, but that is pretty much Moby Control, and I'll happily answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Very good presentation. We do have a few questions here, so I'm going to just read them and let you answer one at a time. So, first one, what happens if an administrator tries to access a device which is currently in use?
You mean, I'm assuming by this question you mean tries to remote control a device that's in use?
Yes, I think if the user is currently using maybe audio or data and the admin tries to take remote control, what would actually happen?
If there was no policy in place to ask for the pop-up on the device for the end user to accept the remote control or not, then essentially the admin person can remote control. They will see exactly what that person is doing on the device. The only thing we don't do is we don't record sound. So even though they could see maybe they're on an audio call or whatever it may be, we can't record the sound, so they wouldn't be able to hear anything. But yes, they can still do a remote control session while that person's on the phone. The only time they wouldn't be able to do a remote control session if the person was on the phone is if that end user was on GPRS, because obviously you can't do voice and data at the same time. Actually, that brings me on to a point. Within remote control, we can also do the two-way instant messaging, and that was brought in for that exact reason, that if someone's on GPRS, they can't do voice at the same time, so we brought in two-way messaging to allow that. I hope
Okay.
that answers it slightly.
Absolutely, thank you. So a question came up around the telecom expense management and also the geofencing. Roaming charges can get very expensive. Is there a way of using the geofencing functionality and expense management to perhaps change the phone's tariff when it goes into a different country?
Yes. So you can create telecom expense management on any folder level. So essentially what you might have is a folder for Germany, or a folder for Sweden, or a folder for Australia. Each of those folders will have their own expense management tariff or rule within the folder with their own tariffs. And anytime a device goes into that folder, it will automatically pull on that expense management rule. So based on a geofence, you put a geofence around Germany, and you would say as soon as the device hits this geofence, automatically move it into the Germany folder. It would then take on the policies of that folder. So yes, it is possible.
Thank you. And one last one, a bit speculative. Which do you think will be the next emerging phone operating system to require enterprise MDM support? Where do you think the market's going?
Good question. So within our current base at the moment, or the current situation with the market, obviously Android is massively dominant. I think the latest figures show that it's now about 71% global market share. That's just going to get stronger. iOS will always be strong. Depending on what country you're in, we're noticing some strong trends. So Windows Phone 8 in Europe doesn't seem that strong. Its market share is very, very small. In North America, it's much, much bigger. So it really depends where you are. What will come on board probably next year are Linux-based devices. I think that's going to grow hugely over the next couple of years. Will be full Linux-based. I know Samsung are in production at the moment of their own Linux-based system, and we will support Linux probably in the next 6 months.
It's very interesting. Do you include the Firefox OS in that?
Yes, we probably will.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all the questions we have here. So thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Andrew, for your fantastic presentation.
Absolute pleasure.
Goodbye.
Excellent. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.